Histobiograph.
Edward VI, England's dark prince, the chilling truth about a boy king. 1. The haunting death of Edward VI. Tragedy or twisted salvation. Picture a 15-year-old kid, his body ravaged by tuberculosis, skin blistered, coughing up black blood in his final, agonizing moments. That's Edward VI, England's boy king, taking his last breath on July 6, 1553. The royal court wept, whispering, "Poor kid gone too soon." But what if his death wasn't a tragedy? What if it was a dark gift that saved England from a nightmare? Stay until the end of this video to uncover the chilling truth behind the death that changed a kingdom's fate. This story will send shivers down your spine. Was Edward VI a visionary reformer, or a tyrant hiding behind a child's face? Stick around to the end to uncover the chilling secret behind the death that might have spared a kingdom. This story will send shivers down your spine. Was Edward VI a visionary reformer, or a tyrant hiding behind a child's face? What darkness lurked in those cold, calculating eyes? England in the 1500s was a powder keg. Edward's dad, Henry VIII, had torn the country from the Catholic Church, forging the Church of England to cement his power. Catholics and Protestants were at each other's throats, and the kingdom was a mess of betrayal and bloodshed. Into this chaos, Edward was born, the golden heir meant to carry Henry's legacy. But could a kid handle that kind of pressure? Or would it twist him into something sinister? Let's dive into the grim world of the Tudors. 2. Edward VI's childhood, a lonely prince in a gilded cage. Born on October 12, 1537, at Hampton Court Palace, Edward was the only son of Henry VIII and Jane Seymour. His mom died just 12 days later, leaving him motherless. Henry, obsessed with power, shipped the kid off to be raised away from court, surrounded by nursemaids like Lady Margaret Bryan. She called him sharp as a tack, but noted his eerie, icy stare, nothing like other kids. Alongside his half-sisters, Mary, daughter of Catherine of Aragon, and Elizabeth, daughter of Anne Boleyn, Edward got hooked on creepy pastimes, astrology, ancient spells, and dusty tomes. Historian Dermot McCulloch suggests these weren't just games. They hinted at a kid craving control in a world that gave him none. Wikipedia, Edward VI. At 6, Edward was thrust into a brutal education. Theology, philosophy, rhetoric, and languages like Greek, Latin, and French. By 13, he was reading Aristotle in Greek and translating Cicero, blowing the minds of tutors like John Cheek and Roger Ascham. Britannica, Edward VI. But this wasn't just school, it was indoctrination. His teachers drilled into him that the Catholic Church was the enemy, and England had to lead the Protestant charge. Henry VIII bragged Edward was his mini-me, but did he notice the kid was colder, sharper, maybe even crueler? No mom, no dad, just advisors and crushing expectations. This was Edward's world. Historian Tracy Borman thinks this isolation warped him, while G.R. Elton saw a cocky, ruthless streak. Encyclopedia.com. Edward VI. Was Edward a product of his grim upbringing, or was there something darker at his core? Then came the moment that made the court's blood run cold. Edward VI's reign, power in the hands of child. In 1547, Henry VIII kicked the bucket, and 9-year-old Edward became king. Real power landed with his uncle, Edward Seymour, Duke of Somerset, a hard-nosed ruler who pushed Protestant reforms and beefed up the military. But the court was a snake pit. Thomas Seymour, Edward's other uncle, schemed to control the Kid King with gifts and cash. He married Edward's stepmom, Catherine Parr, and even eyed marrying Elizabeth to climb the ladder. In a ballsy move in 1549, Thomas broke into the palace, shot a guard dog, and tried to get to Edward's room. The plot flopped, and he was beheaded. Edward's diary, later published in the literary remains of King Edward VI, 1857, recorded it with chilling calm. Today, Thomas Seymour was beheaded, Tudor's dynasty. No tears, no shock, just cold facts. In 1552, Edward Seymour himself was executed for treason, and Edward wrote, "Today, The Duke of Somerset was beheaded on Tower Hill, the Tudor Society. This diary, a raw glimpse into his mind, shows a kid obsessed with power and faith but numb to death. Dermot McCulloch argues this detachment came from his harsh upbringing. Wikipedia, Edward VI. But that icy calm was just the start of something darker. 4. Edward VI's religious reforms, reshaping England's soul. By 1551, at 14, Edward started flexing his power. A hardcore Protestant, he backed the policies of Edward Seymour and later John Dudley, Duke of Northumberland. In 1549, the Book of Common Prayer hit, mandating English in church services and cementing the Church of England, royal family, Edward VI. Priests could marry. Catholic Mass was swapped for Protestant communion, and chantries, Catholic religious houses, were shut down, funneling cash to the crown. Edward also bankrolled schools like King Edward VI School in Birmingham and Stratford-upon-Avon, spreading Protestant ideas through education, Westminster Abbey. Under John Dudley, the economy bounced back with currency reforms, lower prices, and booming trade. Ports like London and Bristol thrived, exporting wool and cloth. Wikipedia, Edward VI. Edward's diary dismissed these uprisings as troubles to be dealt with. King Edward VI Journal. G.R. Elton calls this apathy a red flag for a budding tyrant. Tracy Borman sees a genius crushed by royal pressure. History Extra. Edward VI. Edward wasn't just a puppet. In a letter to his sister Mary, what was really going on in that kid's head? 5. Edward VI's legacy. Genius or monster in the making? One quiet night, a report from Simon Renard claimed Edward ripped a live falcon apart in a fit of rage, freaking out the court. But this story, from a single shaky source, smells like propaganda, all things Robert Dudley. In 1553, tuberculosis tore through Edward. Terrified his Catholic sister Mary would undo his Protestant reforms. He rewrote his will, cutting out Mary and Elizabeth and naming Lady Jane Grey as heir. Wikipedia, Edward VI. Those shaky scribbles on his deathbed changed England's fate. Edward died on July 6, 1553. Jane Grey became the 9 days queen before Mary overthrew and executed her. But Edward's dark shadow didn't die with him. Edward's legacy is a paradox. The Book of Common Prayer and Cranmer's 42 articles shaped the Church of England for centuries. John Dudley's economic reforms steadied the kingdom, and Edward's schools, like King Edward VI School, endure Westminster Abbey. But his early death sparked a succession crisis, paving the way for Mary's bloody reign. G.R. Elton thinks Edward's death saved England from a tyrant. Tracy Borman believes he could have been a great king. Dermot McCulloch warns his Protestant zeal might have turned extreme. Encyclopedia.com. Edward VI. If Edward had lived, would he have forged a disciplined England, like Prussia, with sweeping reforms? Or would his diary's coldness, dismissing executions like they were nothing, have birthed a monster? Was his ruthlessness innate, or did the throne's weight break him? Historian Chris Skidmore praises Edward's brilliance, but notes his isolation killed his empathy. Wikipedia, Edward VI. So, who is this kid in the grand sweep of history? Wrap up the unanswered question. Edward VI, genius reformer or tyrant in training? His death, was it a tragedy that cut short a promising reign? Or a twisted blessing that spared England a dark fate? His legacy, from the Book of Common Prayer to his schools, lives on, but his soul remains a mystery. What do you think? Was Edward VI a visionary or a villain? Drop your take in the comments, hit that like button, and share this video to dive deeper into history's shadows. Don't forget to subscribe for more spine-chilling stories.